5 children stand before Marcus at the country club reunion, each one with his rare teal eyes staring back at him. Eyes he sees in the mirror every morning. His ex-wife smiles knowingly, while his new bride of 3 months watches her entire world crumble. He had no idea these children existed. She made sure of that. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from and don't forget to click subscribe. The champagne flute trembled in Vanessa's hand. Just slightly, but enough that Marcus noticed. He always noticed everything about her. That's what 3 months of marriage to a man worth $40 million had taught her. He noticed when she crossed her legs the wrong way at dinner parties, when she laughed too loud at someone else's joke, when she ordered the second most expensive wine instead of the most expensive because she still couldn't shake her middle-class instincts. Right now, standing in the marble foyer of the Grandview Country Club, he was noticing the tremble. His warm hand covered hers, steadying both her and the glass. "You're going to be fine," he murmured, his voice that low rumble that still made her stomach flip. "They're going to love you." Vanessa wanted to believe him. She'd spent 6 hours getting ready for this reunion, his 10-year college reunion, which felt less like a casual gathering and more like a debut before a jury. Her dress was perfect, a deep emerald silk that Marcus's personal shopper had selected, saying it brought out her eyes and complemented her rich brown skin beautifully. Her hair was swept up in an elegant twist. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like she belonged on his arm. She looked like old money. She looked like everything she wasn't. "I just want to make a good impression," she said quietly. Marcus pulled her closer, his cologne enveloping her, expensive and subtle. "You always do. Remember, you're not here to impress anyone. You're here with me, and that's all that matters." She loved that about him, how he could make her feel like the only person in the room, even when she was terrified of everyone else in it. They'd met 6 months ago when she was catering an event at his company's headquarters. She'd been arranging hors d'oeuvres on silver platters, and he'd been the impossibly handsome executive who'd asked her about the salmon. 3 weeks later, he'd asked her to dinner. 2 months after that, he'd proposed with a ring that cost more than her annual salary. Her mother had cried. Her sister had accused her of being a gold digger. Vanessa had said yes anyway because when Marcus looked at her, she felt like she was exactly who she was supposed to be. The doors to the ballroom opened, and sound spilled out, laughter and music and the clink of glasses. Marcus's hand tightened around hers as they walked in together. The room was stunning, all crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the golf course. Men in expensive suits clustered around the bar. Women in designer dresses air-kissed and compared jewelry. Everyone looked like they'd been born knowing which fork to use. "Marcus, you made it," called a tall man with silver at his temples, striding toward them with a wide smile. "And this must be the new Mrs. Bennett. We've heard so much about you." "This is Vanessa," Marcus said, pride evident in his voice. "Vanessa, this is Richard Hartley. We were roommates freshman year." Richard took her hand, his grip firm and assessing. "Pleasure to meet you." Marcus is a lucky man. The way he said it made Vanessa wonder what exactly he'd heard about her. Lucky to have found someone so beautiful, or lucky that someone like her had agreed to marry someone like him. She smiled anyway, the smile she'd been practicing, warm but not too eager. "The pleasure is mine." "Richard and I go way back," Marcus said, launching into a story about a prank involving the dean's car and a flock of rubber ducks. Vanessa listened, laughed at the right moments, and tried to ignore the weight of eyes on her. She could feel people looking, assessing, wondering. Who was she? Where had she come from? How had she managed to land Marcus Bennett? She was wondering the same things herself sometimes. The evening progressed in a blur of introductions. There was David, the investment banker with the loud laugh. Catherine, the surgeon with the cold handshake. Philip and Amanda, the power couple who'd started their own tech company. Everyone was accomplished. Everyone was wealthy. And everyone had known Marcus since they were 18. Vanessa was the outsider, the newcomer, the woman who didn't have 10 years of shared memories to fall back on when conversations lagged. She excused herself to the restroom after an hour, needing a moment to breathe. The bathroom was as elegant as everything else, all marble and gold fixtures. She stood at the sink, touching up her lipstick and giving herself a mental pep talk. You belong here. You married him. You love him. He loves you. That's all that matters. When she walked back out, she nearly collided with a woman in a stunning red dress. "Excuse me," Vanessa said automatically. The woman turned, and something in her expression shifted. A flicker of recognition, maybe, or assessment. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women were, with honey blonde hair and the kind of bone structure that didn't need contouring. "You're Vanessa, aren't you?" the woman said. "Marcus's new wife." Vanessa nodded, offering a smile. "I am. And you are?" "Juliet. Juliet Morrison. Though it used to be Bennett." The name hit Vanessa like ice water. She'd known Marcus had been married before. He'd told her on their third date, casual and matter-of-fact. A college romance that hadn't lasted, he'd said. We were too young. It ended amicably. He'd made it sound simple, like a chapter that had closed cleanly. He hadn't mentioned that his ex-wife would be at the reunion. Vanessa kept her smile in place, but her heartbeat had picked up. "It's nice to meet you. Marcus mentioned you, of course." Juliet's smile was knowing, almost amused. "I'm sure he did. We were together for quite a while. College sweethearts. Married right after graduation." She said it easily, like she was recounting a pleasant memory. But there was something beneath it. A claim. A territory marker. Vanessa felt her stomach tighten. "How long were you married?" "Oh, about 4 years, Juliet said, waving her hand as if it were nothing. "We divorced 6 years ago. Water under the bridge now." She paused, her eyes scanning Vanessa's face. "You're very different from what I expected." "Different how?" she asked, keeping her voice light even as her grip tightened on her clutch. Juliet laughed, a musical sound. "Oh, don't take it the wrong way. It's just, Marcus always had a type, or so I thought." "You're," she hesitated, searching for the word. "Refreshing." It should have been a compliment. It didn't feel like one. Before Vanessa could respond, Juliet's expression changed, brightening as she looked past Vanessa's shoulder. "Oh, here come the kids. I should introduce you." Vanessa turned and saw 5 children approaching, ranging in age from about 5 to 12. They were all beautifully dressed. The 3 girls in velvet dresses and the 2 boys in miniature suits. They moved as a unit, clearly siblings. And as they got closer, Vanessa noticed something that made her breath catch. Their eyes. All 5 of them had the same unusual eyes. Not quite blue, not quite green, but a distinctive shade of teal that seemed to shift in the light. They were stunning and uncommon, the kind of eyes you'd notice immediately and never forget. And Vanessa had seen those exact eyes before. Every morning, across the breakfast table, on her husband's face. "Kids, this is Vanessa," Juliet said warmly, resting her hands on the shoulders of the youngest girl. "Vanessa, these are my children. This is Emma, she's 12. That's Oliver, he's 10. Then there's Sophie, she's 8. Michael is 6. And this little darling is Lily. She just turned 5. Each child offered a polite hello, their voices well-mannered and sweet. They looked like angels, like something out of a Ralph Lauren advertisement. But all Vanessa could see were those eyes, those impossible, distinctive teal eyes. "It's lovely to meet you all," Vanessa managed, her voice sounding strange to her own ears. "They're beautiful children, Juliet." "Thank you," Juliet said. And there was something in her tone now, something sharp beneath the sweetness. "They take after their father, of course." Vanessa's mind was racing. 5 children, all with Marcus's distinctive eye color, the genetic marker that was so rare, so specific. She'd asked him about it once, early in their relationship. "It's called central heterochromia," he'd explained. "Only about 1% of the population has it. My grandmother had it too. It usually runs in families. Usually runs in families." The words echoed in her head. "Vanessa, there you are." Marcus's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. He appeared at her side, his hand automatically finding the small of her back. "I've been looking for you." Then he saw Juliet and the children, and something flickered across his face. too quick to read, but Vanessa caught it. "Marcus," Juliet said, her voice warm. "I was just introducing Vanessa to the kids." She said it so casually, so innocently, as if this were a normal interaction. As if she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of Vanessa's perfect evening. Marcus's hand had gone rigid against Vanessa's back. He was staring at the children with an expression she'd never seen before. Something between shock and, what was that? Recognition? Pain? "It's good to see you, Jules," he said finally, his voice carefully controlled. "The kids look great. They do, don't they?" Juliet's smile was brilliant. "They're growing so fast. Emma's in 7th grade now. Can you believe it?" The children stood there, those 5 pairs of teal eyes looking up at the adults, innocent and unaware of the tension crackling through the air. Vanessa felt like she couldn't breathe. The room was suddenly too hot, too small. "Well, we should get back," Marcus said abruptly. "Vanessa, are you ready?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. Marcus guided her away, his hand still pressed against her back, and she could feel the tension in his fingers. They made it 3 steps before Juliet's voice followed them. "Marcus," she called out, and they both stopped, turned. Her expression was serene, almost sympathetic. "It really is good to see you. I've missed our talks. You should come by sometime. The kids would love to see you." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Vanessa looked at her husband's face and saw something there she'd never seen before. Guilt. "Maybe we'll do that," Marcus said quietly. And then he was moving again, pulling Vanessa toward the exit. They walked through the ballroom in silence. Vanessa was barely aware of the people they passed, the conversations happening around them. All she could see were those 5 pairs of eyes. All she could hear was Juliet's voice. "They take after their father." The valet brought their car around, a sleek black Mercedes that Marcus had bought 2 months after their wedding. He held the door for her, always the gentleman, and she slid into the passenger seat. The leather was cold against her bare shoulders. Marcus got in, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot. They drove for 5 minutes in complete silence before Vanessa finally found her voice. "Those children," she said. "They have your eyes." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I noticed. All 5 of them. Exactly your shade." "Exactly." Marcus was gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. "Vanessa, I don't know." He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. "I don't know what that means, don't you?" Her voice came out sharper than she'd intended. 5 children, all with your rare genetic trait, your ex-wife's children, and she wanted you to meet them. She specifically brought them over. Marcus pulled the car over abruptly, parking on the side of the road. He turned to face her, and in the dim light from the dashboard, she could see the confusion and fear in his face, in those distinctive teal eyes that she'd fallen in love with. "I haven't seen Juliet in 6 years," he said firmly. "We had a clean break. No contact. I didn't even know she had children until tonight." "Then explain the eyes," Vanessa said. "Explain how all 5 of her children have your genetic marker." Marcus ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she recognized. He did it when he was frustrated, when he couldn't find the right answer. "It has to be a coincidence," he said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Or maybe her new husband has the same trait. It's rare, but not impossible." Vanessa stared at him. "Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that all 5 of her children just happen to have your exact eye color by coincidence?" He looked away, out the windshield at the dark road ahead. "I don't know what to believe." The uncertainty in his voice terrified her more than anything else. This was Marcus, her Marcus, who was always confident, always sure, who made decisions worth millions without hesitation, and now he sounded lost. "Did she say anything to you?" Vanessa asked. "Before tonight, has she reached out?" "Number. Nothing. We haven't spoken since the divorce was finalized. She took everything she wanted in the settlement and left. That was it." "But 6 years, Vanessa said, her mind working through the timeline. "The oldest looks 12. That means—" She stopped, not wanting to say it. "That means she got pregnant while you were still married," Marcus finished quietly. I know how it looks." "How it looks." Vanessa's voice rose. Marcus, if those are your children, if you have 5 children you didn't know about, this isn't about how it looks. This is—" She couldn't even finish. Her whole world was tilting. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I need you to believe me," he said desperately. "I had no idea. If those kids are mine, and I'm not saying they are, but if they are, Juliet never told me. She never even hinted." "Why would she keep that from you?" Vanessa demanded. "What possible reason?" "I don't know," Marcus said. "But I'm going to find out." They sat in the car, the engine idling, both of them lost in their own spiraling thoughts. Finally, Marcus put the car back in drive and pulled onto the road. The rest of the drive home was silent. Their house, a beautiful colonial in an exclusive neighborhood, looked warm and welcoming as they pulled into the driveway. It had been their dream home, the place where they'd planned to raise their own family someday. Now Vanessa looked at it and wondered if everything had been built on lies. Inside, Marcus headed straight for the bar and poured himself a scotch. He never drank scotch unless something was seriously wrong. "I'm going to call Richard," he said, pulling out his phone. He and Jules stayed friends after the divorce. He might know something. Vanessa kicked off her heels, her feet aching, and sank onto the couch. She watched her husband pace across the hardwood floor, phone pressed to his ear, and tried to process everything that had happened in the last hour. "Richard, it's Marcus. Yeah, we left early. Listen, I need to ask you about Juliet." His voice was tense. "The kids she brought tonight. Do you know?" He paused, rubbing his forehead. "Do you know who their father is?" There was a long silence while Marcus listened. Vanessa watched the color drain from his face. "When?" he asked. "How long did you know?" Another pause. His hand was shaking. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Marcus hung up without saying goodbye. He stood there, staring at his phone, his whole body rigid. Vanessa stood up, her heart pounding. What did he say? Marcus looked at her, and she saw something break in his expression. He said everyone assumed I knew. That it was obvious. That Juliet got pregnant right before we divorced, but she never told anyone who the father was. She left, moved to Connecticut, had the baby, and everyone figured we'd worked it out privately. Vanessa felt the room spin. "And the other 4? "1 every 2 years, Marcus whispered, "like clockwork. She moved back here 6 months ago, right before I met you." The implication hung between them. Had Juliet been watching, waiting, planning this reveal? "We need to know for sure," Vanessa said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos in her chest. "A paternity test." "Yes," Marcus agreed immediately. "I'll call my lawyer first thing tomorrow. We'll figure this out." But even as he said it, Vanessa could see the truth settling over him like a shroud. The genetic evidence was damning. The timeline was damning. Everything pointed to one impossible, devastating conclusion. Marcus Bennett, her husband of 3 months, might be the father of his ex-wife's 5 children. Children he'd never known existed. Children that meant Juliet had kept a secret for over a decade. And Vanessa couldn't shake the memory of Juliet's smile. The knowing look in her eyes when she'd introduced the kids. It wasn't the smile of someone sharing unexpected news. It was the smile of someone playing a long game. Someone who'd been holding all the cards, waiting for exactly the right moment to lay them on the table. Marcus came to sit beside her on the couch. He tried to take her hand, and this time she let him. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I don't know how this happened, but I promise you, we'll figure it out. We'll get through this." Vanessa wanted to believe him. She wanted to go back to this morning, when her biggest worry was choosing the right dress. When her marriage was simple and new and uncomplicated. When she didn't have to wonder if her husband had 5 children with his ex-wife. When she didn't have to question everything. But she couldn't go back. She could only sit there, holding Marcus's hand, and wonder what Juliet Morrison was doing right now. Wonder if she was tucking those 5 beautiful children into bed, those children with Marcus's eyes. Wonder what other secrets were waiting to surface. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, a text from an unknown number. She picked it up with shaking hands. "Welcome to the family, Vanessa. I think we should talk. Just us girls. Let's meet for coffee tomorrow. 10 a.m. at Meridian Cafe. I'll explain everything Marcus couldn't. Juliet." Vanessa showed Marcus the text. His face went white, then red. "You're not going," he said immediately. "This is manipulation. She's playing games." "Maybe," Vanessa said slowly. "But don't you want to know what she has to say? What she couldn't say in front of everyone tonight?" Marcus stood up, started pacing again. "This is crazy, all of it. 6 years of nothing. And then she shows up with 5 kids who look like me? And now she wants to meet with my wife? What is she trying to do?" "That's what I want to find out," Vanessa said. She felt strangely calm now, like she'd moved past the shock into something else. A need to know, a need to understand. "If those children are yours, Marcus, we need to know why she kept them from you. What she wants now." Marcus stopped pacing and looked at her. The fear in his eyes was raw. What if she wants them back in my life? What if she wants money? What if... He couldn't finish. "What if this destroys us?" Vanessa completed quietly. "What if it already has?" The words hung between them, heavy and horrible. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. Their perfect house suddenly felt fragile, like something that could be blown away with one strong gust. "I love you," Marcus said desperately. "Whatever happens, whatever we find out, I love you. That has to count for something." Vanessa looked at him. This man she'd married 3 months ago. This man she thought she knew. And she realized she was about to walk into a conversation that could change everything. That could reveal truths she wasn't sure she wanted to know. But she had to go. She had to hear what Juliet had to say. "I'll meet her," Vanessa said finally. "Tomorrow at 10, and then we'll know." Marcus started to protest, but she held up her hand. "We need answers, Marcus. And something tells me Juliet is the only one who has them." That night, Vanessa lay awake in their king-size bed, staring at the ceiling while Marcus tossed and turned beside her. She thought about those 5 children. Emma, Oliver, Sophie, Michael, and Lily. She tried to imagine Marcus as their father, tried to picture him at soccer games and school plays, birthday parties and family dinners. Tried to imagine her life with 5 stepchildren, 5 pieces of his past that would always tie him to Juliet. But more than that, she thought about Juliet's smile, the calculated way she'd engineered that introduction, the text that had come just hours later. This wasn't an accident. This was a plan. And tomorrow, at Meridian Cafe, Vanessa was going to find out exactly what that plan was. She turned to look at Marcus. His eyes were open too, staring at nothing. They didn't speak. There was nothing left to say until they knew the truth. The clock on the nightstand glowed 3:47 a.m. In 6 hours, Vanessa would walk into that cafe. In 6 hours, everything would change again. She just didn't know how much. Somewhere around 5 in the morning, Vanessa must have fallen asleep, because she woke to Marcus already dressed, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, but she could hear the strain underneath. "I don't care if you have to cancel everything else today," he was saying. "I need those results as fast as possible." "Yes, I understand the lab needs samples from all parties. I'll handle it. Just make it happen." He hung up and turned to find her watching him. His tie was already knotted perfectly, his suit immaculate, but there were dark circles under his eyes that even expensive fabric couldn't hide. "My lawyer," he explained unnecessarily. "He's setting up the paternity test. We can have preliminary results in 48 hours if we expedite it." Vanessa sat up, pulling the silk sheets around her. "How are you going to get samples from the children?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm going to have to ask Juliet. There's no way around it." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. He'd have to confront his ex-wife, ask her for access to children who might be his, children she'd hidden for over a decade, children Vanessa was about to have coffee with her about in less than 5 hours. "You should eat something," Marcus said, his voice softening. "Before you go. I'm not hungry." "Vanessa, please." He sat on the edge of the bed, and for the first time since the reunion, He looked vulnerable. Really vulnerable. I need you to be strong today. I need you to find out what she wants. But I also need you to come back to me. She reached for his hand. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus. We're in this together. But even as she said it, she wondered if it was true. Could a marriage survive this? Could she raise another woman's children? Children who would be a constant reminder of Marcus's past. Children who would tie him to Juliet forever. Marcus left for the office an hour later, though Vanessa suspected he wouldn't get any work done. She showered, taking longer than necessary, letting the hot water wash over her as she tried to prepare for the conversation ahead. What did one wear to meet their husband's ex-wife to discuss her potentially secret children? She settled on simple black pants and a cream silk blouse. Understated but elegant. She wanted Juliet to see her as Marcus's equal, not as someone who could be intimidated or dismissed. At 9:30, Vanessa's mother called. "How was the reunion, baby?" her mother asked, her voice bright. "Did you knock them dead?" Vanessa closed her eyes, debating how much to say. "It was complicated, Mom." "Complicated how?" The maternal radar was already up. Vanessa gave her the abbreviated version. When she finished, there was a long silence on the other end. "Baby," her mother said finally, her voice careful. "Do you trust him?" "With my life," Vanessa answered immediately. "Then trust him now. But that doesn't mean you have to be a fool. You go to that meeting, you listen to what that woman has to say, and you remember something. You're his wife, not her. You're the one he chose to build a future with. Whatever happened in his past, he didn't know about it. That matters." "Does it?" Vanessa asked quietly. "If those are his children, Mom, everything changes. Children don't change love," her mother said firmly. "They complicate it, sure. But if you two love each other the way you say you do, you'll figure it out. You always were stronger than you gave yourself credit for." Vanessa wasn't feeling particularly strong as she pulled into the parking lot of Meridian Cafe at 9:55. The cafe was in a trendy part of town, all exposed brick and reclaimed wood, the kind of place that served oat milk lattes and avocado toast. Through the large windows, she could see Juliet already seated at a corner table, looking effortlessly chic in a white cashmere sweater. Vanessa took a deep breath, checked her reflection in the rearview mirror, and stepped out of the car. The little bell above the door chimed as she entered. Juliet looked up and smiled, waving her over as if this were a casual catch-up between old friends, instead of a potential demolition of Vanessa's entire life. "Vanessa, thank you for coming," Juliet said warmly, standing to offer an air kiss that Vanessa barely returned. "I ordered you a cappuccino." "I hope that's all right." "It's fine," Vanessa said, sitting down across from her. "Let's skip the pleasantries, Juliet. Why am I here?" Juliet's smile didn't falter, but something flickered in her eyes. Respect, maybe, or calculation, straight to the point. "I like that about you. Marcus always did prefer women with spine." "Did he?" Vanessa kept her voice level. "Because he told me you were sweet, accommodating, that the divorce was mutual and amicable." Juliet laughed, a genuine sound that somehow made Vanessa even more nervous. "Is that what he said? Interesting. The divorce was anything but amicable, Vanessa. It was a war. Then why keep his children from him?" Vanessa leaned forward. "If those are his children, if you got pregnant while you were married, why hide them? Why let him think they didn't exist?" Juliet took a delicate sip of her coffee, considering her words. "Because I wanted him to hurt the way he hurt me." The honesty was jarring. Vanessa sat back, studying the woman across from her. Juliet looked calm, composed. But underneath there was something else. Old pain, maybe. Old rage. "What did he do to you?" Vanessa asked. "He fell out of love with me," Juliet said simply. "We got married too young. By year 3, he was already pulling away, staying late at work, taking business trips that weren't entirely necessary. He never cheated," she added quickly, seeing Vanessa's expression. "Marcus is too honorable for that. But he stopped loving me. and I could feel it every day. It was like dying slowly. So when I found out I was pregnant with Emma, Vanessa prompted. I saw an opportunity, Juliet admitted. I thought a baby would fix us, would make him stay, would make him love me again. But it didn't, Vanessa guessed. Number. He was kind about it. Juliet's voice had gone bitter. So terribly kind. He said he'd support me and the baby financially, that we'd co-parent amicably, but that he couldn't stay in a loveless marriage. He wanted a divorce. Vanessa tried to imagine Marcus, her Marcus, cold enough to leave a pregnant wife. It didn't match the man who brought her coffee in bed, who held her during thunderstorms, who looked at her like she hung the moon. So you left, Vanessa said, and you kept Emma from him. Juliet met her eyes. I told him I lost the baby, that I'd miscarried at 8 weeks. He was devastated, actually cried, but he still wanted the divorce, so I figured, if he didn't want to be a father to our child, then he didn't deserve to be. Vanessa felt sick. You lied to him for 12 years. You kept his daughter from him out of spite. It wasn't just spite, Juliet said sharply. It was survival. Do you know what it's like to love someone who doesn't love you back? To feel yourself becoming smaller and smaller in their eyes? I took back my power the only way I knew how. By taking his children. And there were 5 of them, Vanessa said. 5 times you got pregnant. 5 times you kept the truth from him. How? Juliet's smile returned, sadder this time. IVF. I saved everything from our marriage, including samples from the fertility clinic we'd visited before things fell apart. Marcus had deposited them thinking we'd use them together someday. I used them alone. After Emma, after I'd moved away and built a new life, I wanted to give her siblings. Our children deserved a complete family, even if their father didn't know they existed. So Marcus never touched you after Emma, Vanessa said, understanding flooding through her. These aren't children from an affair or a secret relationship. You made them from stored genetic material. Exactly, Juliet confirmed. Every child is biologically his. But he had no part in creating them beyond what he left behind. Vanessa's mind was reeling. The legal implications alone were staggering. The ethical ones were worse. And now? She asked. Why reveal them now? Why bring them to the reunion? Why text me? Juliet leaned back in her chair, and for the first time Vanessa saw something vulnerable in her expression. Because Emma asked about her father. Because she's 12 years old and she's starting to question things. Because all 5 of them deserve to know where they come from. And because Juliet paused, choosing her words carefully. Because I saw Marcus with you at a charity gala 3 months ago. Before I knew who you were. Before I knew he'd remarried. I saw the way he looked at you. The way he never looked at me. And I realized that he's capable of that kind of love. He just wasn't capable of it with me. And I decided that maybe, just maybe, my children deserved to know a man who could love like that, even if he couldn't love their mother. Vanessa didn't know what to say. She'd expected manipulation, threats, demands for money. Instead, she was getting something far more complicated. A broken woman who'd made terrible choices out of pain, who'd created children out of loneliness and spite, and who now wanted to give those children something she'd never had. What do you want from us? Vanessa asked finally. Juliet met her eyes. I want Marcus to know his children. I want them to know him. I don't expect him to forgive me. I don't even expect him to be a part of my life. But Emma, Oliver, Sophie, Michael and Lily, they deserve a father. And Marcus deserves to know he has them. And me? Vanessa asked. What about me? Where do I fit in this fantasy reunion? Juliet reached across the table and Vanessa resisted the urge to pull away. You're the wild card, she said softly. You're the one who could make this work, or destroy it completely. If you can accept them, if you can love them, then maybe this broken thing I created can become something beautiful. But if you can't, if this drives you away from Marcus, then I've destroyed him all over again, and I'm not sure even I'm cruel enough to want that anymore. Vanessa stood up abruptly. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too hot. I need air. She walked outside and Juliet followed, giving her space but staying close. Vanessa stood on the sidewalk, people passing by, living their normal lives without these impossible choices. 5 children, she said finally, turning to face Juliet. 5 children, who've grown up without a father, because you were hurt. Because you wanted revenge. Yes, Juliet said simply. And I'll have to live with that for the rest of my life. But they're here now. They exist. And the question isn't whether what I did was right or wrong anymore. The question is what happens next. What happens to Emma, who cries at night wondering why her father doesn't want her? What happens to Oliver, who gets in fights at school defending siblings who don't have the same last name as any father they know? What happens to Lily, who's never even met Marcus but draws pictures of him based on old photos I finally showed her? Vanessa closed her eyes. Marcus wants a paternity test. Of course he does, Juliet said. I expected that. I'll bring the children in tomorrow. He can see for himself. But Vanessa, she waited until Vanessa looked at her. The test is just a formality. You saw their eyes. You know the truth. Vanessa did know. She'd known the moment she saw those 5 perfect faces with Marcus's unmistakable eyes staring back at her. The question is, Juliet said quietly, can you live with it? Can you love them? Because they're going to need you. Marcus will need you. And if I'm being honest, I could probably use your mercy too. Vanessa looked at this woman who'd engineered such an elaborate, painful deception, who'd created life out of spite and was now asking for grace. And she didn't have an answer. Vanessa looked at this woman who'd engineered such an elaborate, painful deception, who'd created life out of spite and was now asking for grace. And she didn't have an answer. I need to talk to Marcus, she said finally. Before I can answer anything, I need to talk to my husband. Juliet nodded, and for the first time she looked genuinely uncertain. Of course. Take all the time you need. Just, she paused. Please don't let him shut them out completely. Whatever anger he has toward me, the children don't deserve to pay for my mistakes. They already have, Vanessa said quietly, and walked back to her car. The drive home felt longer than it should have. Vanessa's mind kept replaying the conversation, Juliet's revelations, the images of those 5 children with Marcus's eyes. She thought about Emma crying at night, about Oliver fighting at school, about little Lily drawing pictures of a father she'd never met. By the time she pulled into her driveway, she'd made a decision, not about what would happen, but about what she needed to do next. Marcus was home early. His car was in the garage when she walked in, and she found him in his study, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. He looked up when she entered, and the desperate hope in his eyes nearly broke her. What did she say? He asked, standing immediately. Vanessa closed the door behind her and told him everything. Every word Juliet had spoken, every revelation about the IVF, about her motivations, about the children growing up wondering about their father. Marcus listened without interrupting, his face cycling through emotions. Shock, anger, betrayal, grief, and something else. Something that looked almost like longing. When she finished, he sank back into his chair. Stored samples, he said finally, from the fertility clinic. We went there because, he stopped, his voice catching. Because we'd been trying for a year and nothing happened. She wanted a baby so desperately, and I wanted to give her that, to fix whatever was breaking between us. So we went to the clinic, they ran tests, and they had me make deposits in case we needed interventions later. But we never got that far. The divorce happened first. And she kept them, Vanessa said. Used them to create 5 children over the course of a decade. Marcus looked at her with such raw pain that she wanted to wrap her arms around him. But she held back, needing him to process this first. She lied to me, he said. Told me she'd miscarried. Let me grieve a child that didn't exist while she was carrying my actual daughter. Then she did it 4 more times, creating children without my knowledge, without my consent. The legal term for that is reproductive coercion. Vanessa came closer, perching on the edge of his desk. What are you feeling right now? Tell me the truth. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. I'm furious at Juliet. What she did was unforgivable. She stole something from me, Vanessa. 12 years with my daughter. 10 years with my son. 8, 6, 5 years with the others. I'll never get those moments back. First steps, first words, first days of school. All gone. But then he looked up at her, and his eyes were wet. But I also can't stop thinking about them. About Emma crying because she thinks I don't want her. About Oliver fighting to defend his family. About Lily drawing pictures of me. They're mine, Vanessa. I saw it the moment I looked at them. Those eyes, yes, but it's more than that. Emma has my mother's nose. Oliver stands the same way my father did. They're mine. And they've been out there all this time thinking I abandoned them. Vanessa felt her heart crack open. What do you want to do? She asked softly. I want to be their father, he said immediately. I want to know them, to be part of their lives. But then his face crumpled. But I don't know if I have the right to ask that of you. We've been married 3 months, Vanessa. 3 months. And now I'm asking you to become a stepmother to 5 children who come with the most complicated, painful baggage imaginable. That's not fair to you. It's not what you signed up for. Vanessa slid off the desk and knelt in front of him, taking his hands. Marcus, look at me. He did. And she saw the fear there. The fear that this would be the thing that broke them. When I married you, she said carefully, I promised to take you for better or worse. I know we didn't expect the worst to include 5 secret children, but here we are. And yes, it's complicated. Yes, it's going to be hard. But those children didn't ask for any of this. They didn't choose to be created the way they were. They didn't choose to grow up without you. They're innocent in all of this. You really believe that? Marcus asked. That we can make this work? I don't know, Vanessa admitted, but I think we have to try. For them, if not for us. Marcus pulled her up and into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I don't deserve you, he whispered into her hair. Probably not, she said, making him laugh despite everything. But you're stuck with me anyway. They held each other for a long time. Finally, Marcus pulled back. The paternity test, he said. We should still do it, for legal reasons if nothing else. Agreed, Vanessa said. But Marcus, we both know what it's going to say. He nodded. Those eyes don't lie. So what's our next step? Vanessa asked. Marcus thought for a moment. I need to talk to Juliet. Really talk to her, not just arrange logistics. I need to understand why she did this, need to hear it from her directly. And I need to set boundaries. Whatever relationship I build with the kids, it can't include letting her manipulate or control situations anymore. That sounds healthy, Vanessa said. And painful. Everything about this is going to be painful, Marcus said. But maybe it can also be beautiful. Maybe we can give those kids something they've never had. A complete family. Even if it looks different than traditional ones. The paternity test was scheduled for the next day. Marcus's lawyer had arranged for a mobile service to come to the house, and Juliet agreed to bring the children. Vanessa spent the morning cleaning obsessively, rearranging furniture, then putting it back. She was making her 3rd pot of coffee when Marcus caught her hand. They're going to love you, he said. Or hate me for being the reason their lives got complicated, she countered. Their lives were already complicated, Marcus reminded her. We're just, he struggled for the word, adding different complications. Vanessa laughed despite herself. That's one way to put it. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 in the afternoon. Marcus answered it, and Vanessa hung back, giving them space for this first real conversation. Through the doorway, she could see Juliet with all 5 children. The kids looked nervous, Emma especially. She was holding Lily's hand tightly, clearly in protective older sister mode. Marcus, Juliet said, her voice more subdued than Vanessa had ever heard it. Thank you for agreeing to this. Marcus didn't respond to her. Instead, he crouched down to the children's level. Hi, he said gently. I'm Marcus. He paused, clearly struggling with what to say. I'm very happy to meet you all properly. Are you our dad? Lily asked, her voice high and sweet. The question hung in the air. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Oliver's jaw was set, defensive. Sophie and Michael just looked confused. I might be, Marcus said carefully. That's what we're here to find out today. But whether I am or not, I want you to know something important. None of what's happened is your fault. And whatever we discover, you all deserve to be loved and wanted. That's very important to me that you understand that. Emma's tears spilled over. Mama said you didn't know about us, that she never told you. Is that true? It's true, Marcus confirmed, and Vanessa could hear the emotion in his voice. I didn't know, but I wish I had. I wish I could have been there for all of you from the beginning. Why? Oliver asked, his tone challenging. Why would you want to be? Because, Marcus said, meeting the boy's eyes. If you're my children, then knowing you would have been the greatest gift of my life. And if you are, then I've missed 12 years, 10 years, 8 years, 6 years, and 5 years that I can never get back. And that breaks my heart. Something in Oliver's expression cracked. Emma was openly crying now, and even Sophie was sniffling. Juliet looked like she might fall apart entirely. The technician arrived then, breaking the emotional tension. The testing itself was quick, just cheek swabs and paperwork. The children were remarkably cooperative, even little Lily, who was usually scared of medical things, according to Juliet. Afterward, Vanessa suggested refreshments. She'd prepared lemonade and cookies, trying to create some normalcy in this surreal situation. The children filed into the kitchen, looking around with wide eyes. Your house is really big, Michael said, his first words of the afternoon. It is pretty big, Vanessa agreed. Sometimes I get lost in it myself. That made him giggle. While Marcus talked quietly with Juliet in the living room, their voices tense but controlled, Vanessa found herself surrounded by 5 pairs of teal eyes. So you're married to him? Emma asked. To Marcus? Yes, Vanessa said. For 3 months now. Do you love him? Sophie asked, direct in the way only an 8-year-old could be. I do, Vanessa said honestly. Very much. Then you must be sad, Emma said quietly. About us, I mean. About finding out we exist. It must feel like we're ruining everything. Vanessa's heart squeezed. Oh, honey, no. You're not ruining anything. You're just... She struggled to find the right words. You're a surprise. A big surprise, sure. But not a bad one. Oliver snorted. Yeah, right. Everyone always says that, but we know what people really think. That we're baggage. That we're problems. Vanessa set down her lemonade and looked at each child in turn. Can I tell you all something? And I want you to really hear me. They nodded. Even Oliver, though he tried to look indifferent. Your mom made choices that were complicated and hurtful to Marcus. I'm not going to lie about that. What she did was wrong. But you 5, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just kids who deserve to be loved and wanted and safe. And if the test proves that Marcus is your father, then yes, my life is going to change in ways I never expected. But that doesn't mean I don't want you here. It just means we're all going to have to figure out how to be a family together. And that might be messy and hard sometimes. But maybe it could also be wonderful. You'd really want to be our stepmom? Lily asked, her voice small. I don't know yet, Vanessa admitted. Because I don't know you yet. But I'd like to. I'd like to know what Emma likes to read, and what makes Oliver laugh. And whether Sophie prefers chocolate or vanilla, and what Michael's favorite subject is in school, and what Lily dreams about at night. Emma looked at her siblings, some silent communication passing between them. I like fantasy novels, Emma said finally, like ones with dragons and magic. Oliver likes terrible jokes, Sophie offered, the kind that make you groan. I prefer vanilla, Sophie added, but only if it has rainbow sprinkles. Math, Michael said shyly. I like math. And I dream about flying, Lily whispered. Like a bird. Vanessa smiled. See? Now I know you a little bit better. And maybe, over time, we can all get to know each other even more. From the living room, they heard Marcus's voice rise slightly, then fall again. The conversation with Juliet was clearly intense. But here in the kitchen, something fragile and new was forming. A possibility of connection. A family. The test results came back 2 days later. Vanessa and Marcus sat in his lawyer's office, holding hands tightly, while the lawyer opened the envelope with far too much dramatic flair. The results are conclusive, the lawyer said. Marcus Bennett is the biological father of all 5 children. Marcus closed his eyes. Vanessa squeezed his hand. They'd known, of course. But knowing and knowing were different things. What does this mean legally? Marcus asked. The lawyer explained. Given the circumstances of the children's conception, Marcus had grounds to sue for custody, for reimbursement of child support he would have paid, for damages. The case would be unprecedented and complicated, but winnable. Or, the lawyer said carefully, you could work out an arrangement with Miss Morrison. Joint custody, visitation schedules, financial support going forward. The goal would be stability for the children rather than punishment. I don't want to punish her, Marcus said slowly. I mean, part of me does. Part of me wants her to pay for what she stole from me. But the kids have already been through enough. They don't need to watch their parents go to war in court. So we negotiate, Vanessa said. We figure out what's best for Emma, Oliver, Sophie, Michael, and Lily. And we build from there. Marcus looked at her. You're sure about this? About all of this? No, Vanessa said honestly. I'm terrified. But I'm also sure that I love you, and I'm sure that those kids deserve better than what they've had. So we figure it out. Together. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Marcus and Juliet met multiple times, sometimes with lawyers, sometimes without. The conversations were painful, full of old wounds and new anger. But slowly, they hammered out an agreement. Joint legal custody, with the children primarily living with Juliet but spending every other weekend and 1 evening a week with Marcus. Summers would be split. Holidays would alternate. Marcus would pay child support and contribute to college funds. And both parents would commit to family therapy, both individually and together, to work through the trauma and complications. But more than the legal arrangements, they had to figure out the human elements. How to introduce Marcus into the children's lives without overwhelming them. How to help them understand what had happened without making them hate their mother. How to build trust when everything was built on lies. The first official weekend visit was terrifying. The children arrived on Friday evening, each carrying a small suitcase. Emma looked anxious, Oliver defensive, Sophie curious, Michael excited, and Lily scared. Vanessa had prepared the guest rooms, putting 2 girls in one room and 3 in another, trying to make them feel welcoming without being overwhelming. Marcus gave them a tour of the house, showing them where everything was. This is your home too now, he said. When you're here, you're not guests. You're family. That means you can relax, you can ask for what you need. You can make noise and mess. You don't have to be perfect. Do you have any rules? Emma asked, clearly trying to establish expectations. Marcus and Vanessa exchanged glances. They'd discussed this. Be kind to each other, Marcus said. Be honest, even when it's hard. And give each other grace when we mess up, because we probably will. That's it? Oliver asked suspiciously. That's it, Vanessa confirmed. Well, and maybe don't leave wet towels on the floor, but we're still working on that one ourselves. That first weekend was awkward. There were long silences and stilted conversations. Michael spilled juice on the carpet and cried, convinced he'd ruined everything. Sophie had a nightmare and called for her mother before remembering where she was. Oliver barely spoke except to correct Marcus on facts about his own life. But there were good moments too. Emma and Vanessa discovered they both loved the same fantasy series and spent an hour discussing theories. Marcus taught Michael a card game that had his son giggling helplessly. Lily asked to sit on Marcus's lap during a movie and fell asleep there, her small hand clutching his shirt. And on Sunday morning, when Vanessa made pancakes, all 5 children crowded into the kitchen, chattering and laughing and fighting over the chocolate chips. And for just a moment, It felt like they'd been doing this forever. The second weekend was easier. The third was easier still. Slowly, routines formed. Emma started texting Marcus questions about her homework. Oliver began challenging him to video game matches, which Marcus consistently lost. Sophie declared Vanessa the best braider of hair in the family. Michael began each visit by showing Marcus his latest math achievements. And Lily started calling them Mom V and Dad M to distinguish them from her other mother. 6 months in, Vanessa found Emma crying in her room. The girl had grown several inches and was now almost as tall as Vanessa, all long limbs and emerging teenage grace. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Vanessa asked, sitting beside her on the bed. Emma wiped her eyes. "It's stupid." "Try me." Emma took a shuddering breath. "There's a father-daughter dance at school, and I don't know who to ask, because I have Dad M now, and he'd probably say yes. But I feel guilty, like I'm betraying Mom. And also," she paused, her voice breaking, "also I'm scared he'll say no, that this is all still too new, and he doesn't want to be that kind of dad yet." Vanessa put her arm around the girl. "Can I tell you what I think Marcus would say if you asked him?" Emma nodded. "I think he'd be honored. I think he'd probably cry, actually. And then he'd ask me to help him learn how to dance because he's terrible at it." "Really?" Emma asked, a small smile breaking through. "Really," Vanessa confirmed. "And as for your mom, feeling guilty is normal. But loving Marcus doesn't mean you love her less. Hearts don't work that way. They expand. There's room for everyone." Emma leaned into Vanessa's shoulder. "How did you get so good at this? At being a stepmom?" "I'm not good at it," Vanessa said honestly. "I'm just trying. And sometimes trying is enough." Emma asked Marcus to the dance. He said yes and did indeed cry. Vanessa spent 2 weeks teaching him basic dance steps in their living room, while the other kids watched and offered unhelpful commentary. The night of the dance, Marcus wore his best suit and brought Emma a corsage. When he came home 3 hours later, his eyes were red, but his smile was radiant. "She introduced me to all her friends as her dad," he told Vanessa, his voice awed. "Not as Marcus or as her mom's ex-husband, as her dad." "That's who you are," Vanessa said simply. It took a year, but slowly, they became a family. Not a traditional one, not an uncomplicated one, but a real one nonetheless. Emma started coming to Vanessa with boy problems. Oliver began asking Marcus for advice about college. Sophie insisted on Friday night game nights where everyone had to participate. Michael brought home straight-A report cards to hang on both refrigerators, at both houses. Lily drew pictures of their expanding family, stick figures holding hands, labeled carefully with everyone's names. The relationship with Juliet remained complicated. There were arguments about scheduling, disagreements about parenting approaches, moments of tension when old wounds resurfaced. But they were learning to co-parent, to put the children first, to communicate with honesty, if not always warmth. And sometimes, Vanessa caught Juliet watching Marcus with the kids with an expression of deep sadness, and she almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because Juliet had created this situation. But she'd also created 5 remarkable children who deserved all the love they could get. 2 years after the reunion, Marcus and Vanessa sat in their backyard watching all 5 kids play. Emma was teaching Sophie how to throw a football. Oliver and Michael were engaged in an elaborate game involving sticks and imagination. Lily was making flower crowns and attempting to put them on everyone's heads. "Can you believe it's been 2 years?" Marcus asked, pulling Vanessa close. "Some days yes, some days no," Vanessa admitted. "Some days I feel like we've always been this way. Other days I remember that night at the reunion, and I still can't believe this is our life." "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Taking this on?" Vanessa was quiet, really thinking about it. The last 2 years had been the hardest of her life. There had been tears, fights, moments where she'd wanted to run away, nights where she'd questioned every choice, times when being a stepmother felt impossible, when navigating the relationship with Juliet felt unbearable, when the complications seemed too great. But then she looked at Lily, who'd just successfully crowned Oliver with daisies, at Michael, who was laughing so hard he was snorting, at Sophie, who'd caught the football and was doing a ridiculous victory dance. At Emma, who'd become like a daughter to her. At Oliver, who'd finally started hugging her goodbye. "I don't regret it," she said finally. "It's been hard, maybe the hardest thing I've ever done. But look at them, Marcus. Look at how loved they are. They have 2 homes where they're wanted. They have parents who are trying, even when it's messy. They have each other. And they have us." Marcus kissed her temple. "I couldn't have done this without you. You know that, right? None of this would have worked if you'd walked away. But I didn't," Vanessa said. "And I won't. Because somewhere along the way, these stopped being your kids and became our kids. And our family might look different than we planned, but it's ours. That's what matters." Emma jogged over, slightly breathless. "Dad? Mom V, can we order pizza?" All this playing is making everyone hungry. "Of course," Marcus said, and Emma ran off to tell her siblings. Vanessa watched her go, heard the cheers that erupted at the pizza announcement, felt Marcus's arm around her shoulders, solid and sure. And she thought about that night at the reunion, when her life had shattered. About the woman in the red dress with the 5 children with teal eyes. About the coffee shop conversation that had changed everything. About the choice she'd made to stay, to try, to love even when it was hard. It hadn't been easy. There had been no fairy tale solution, no magic moment when everything became perfect. But piece by piece, day by day, they'd built something real, something good, something worth fighting for. Later that night, after the pizza was demolished and the kids were in bed, Vanessa found a drawing Lily had left on the counter. It showed their house, bigger and more colorful than it was in reality, with 9 stick figures in front. There was Juliet, labeled Mom, the 5 kids in order by height. Marcus labeled Dad M and Vanessa, labeled Mom V, holding hands with Marcus on one side and Lily on the other. At the top, in Lily's careful kindergarten handwriting, it said, "Our family." Vanessa showed it to Marcus. He stared at it for a long moment, then carefully placed it on the refrigerator with a magnet, right in the center where everyone could see it. "That's us," he said softly. "That's really us." "Yes," Vanessa agreed, leaning into him, against all odds, despite everything that should have torn them apart, despite the secrets and lies and pain. They'd become exactly what Lily had drawn. A family. Complicated, messy, unconventional, but whole. And that was more than enough. It was everything. 3 months later, on a crisp autumn Saturday, something unexpected happened. Vanessa was in the kitchen preparing lunch when the doorbell rang. Marcus was outside teaching Oliver how to change a tire, a father-son bonding moment that had Oliver actually smiling and engaged. The other kids were scattered throughout the house, doing homework or playing. Vanessa opened the door to find Juliet standing there, looking nervous in a way Vanessa had never seen her. She wasn't dropping off the kids. It wasn't her weekend. She was alone, holding a small wrapped box. "Juliet," Vanessa said, surprised. "Is everything okay?" Juliet took a breath. "I know this is your weekend with the children. I'm not here to interfere. She paused, struggling. "I wanted to give you something. And to talk if you have a moment." Vanessa hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in." They sat in the living room, an awkward distance between them on the couch. Juliet set the box on the coffee table but didn't push it toward Vanessa yet. "I've been in therapy," Juliet said abruptly, "since the reunion, since everything came out. My therapist suggested I might want to." She stopped, started again. "I owe you an apology, a real one. Not for Marcus. He and I have had our conversations, said what needed to be said, but to you specifically." Vanessa waited, saying nothing. "What I did to Marcus was unforgivable," Juliet continued. "I know that. I've accepted that. But what I did to you was cruel in a different way. I saw you at that charity gala. Remember I told you? I saw how happy Marcus was with you. And instead of leaving well enough alone, instead of finding my own path forward, I engineered that entire reunion reveal. I brought the children there specifically because I knew you'd both be there. I planned for you to see them, to see their eyes, To have your perfect new marriage imploded in the most public, painful way possible. Vanessa felt her throat tighten. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth, Juliet said. And because I've watched you for 2 years now. The way you've loved my children. The way you've never made them feel like they were burdens or mistakes. The way you braid Sophie's hair and help Emma with her homework and teach Michael card tricks. The way you let Lily call you Mom V without ever trying to replace me. You gave them something I never could. A stable, loving home with their father. And you did it with grace and patience and kindness that I certainly didn't deserve. Vanessa's eyes were burning. It hasn't been easy. I know, Juliet said softly. I know because Emma tells me. Not complaining, she added quickly. But she tells me about the hard days. About when Oliver was so angry he said terrible things to both of you. About when Sophie cried for me during a storm. About when you and Marcus fought about discipline strategies and the kids heard. She tells me because she trusts me, and because she wants me to know that you're real with them, that you don't pretend everything is perfect, and that makes her feel safe. A tear slipped down Vanessa's cheek. They're remarkable kids, she said. You did that, Juliet. Whatever else happened, you raised 5 remarkable human beings. Juliet smiled sadly. We both know I made a lot of mistakes in how I raised them. But thank you for saying that. She pushed the box toward Vanessa. This is for you. Vanessa opened it carefully. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with 6 small charms. 5 birthstones and one that looked like a heart. Each stone was labeled with initials on the back. EOSML. Emma, Oliver, Sophie, Michael, Lily. The heart had a V. They're birthstones, Juliet explained. And the heart is you. The one who holds them all together. I thought. She paused, her voice breaking. I thought you should have something that acknowledges what you are to them. What you've become. A mother. Not the only mother, not a replacement, but a mother nonetheless. Vanessa couldn't speak. She just held the necklace, feeling the weight of it, the meaning. Thank you, she finally whispered. Juliet stood. I should go. I don't want to intrude on your time with them. But Vanessa, she turned back. Thank you for loving them. Thank you for loving him. Thank you for being bigger than my worst choices. After Juliet left, Vanessa sat holding the necklace for a long time. Marcus found her there when he came in with Oliver, both of them grease-stained and grinning. You okay? Marcus asked, noticing her tears. Oliver's grin faded. Mom V, what's wrong? Vanessa smiled through her tears. Nothing's wrong. Everything's actually really right. She told them about Juliet's visit, about the apology, about the necklace. Oliver studied it seriously. That's pretty cool of her, he admitted. Like, it doesn't fix everything, but it's something. Marcus helped Vanessa put the necklace on. It settled against her collarbone, the birthstones catching the light. Emma wandered in and gasped. Is that our birthstones? Vanessa nodded. Your mom brought it. Wanted me to have something that represents all of you. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She struggled for words. That means Mom's really okay with this. With us having 2 moms. With you being part of our family. She came over and hugged Vanessa tightly. I'm so glad you didn't leave. When everything got crazy at the reunion, I was so scared you'd leave and we'd lose Dad M before we even really got to know him. But you stayed. You stayed for us. I stayed for all of us, Vanessa said, holding her close. Because some things are worth fighting for. That evening, with all 5 children present, Marcus made an announcement at dinner. He and Vanessa had been discussing something, he said, something important. We've been thinking about the future, Marcus began, about our family and how we want to move forward. He looked at Vanessa, who nodded encouragingly. We're planning to buy a bigger house. One where each of you can have your own bedroom when you're here. Where there's enough space for everyone to feel like this is truly home. Not just a place you visit, but home. The kids erupted in excited chatter. Can I paint my room purple? Sophie demanded. Will there be a big backyard? Michael asked. Can Emma and I still share if we want? Lily said quietly. Yes, to all of it, Vanessa assured them. We want you to help design your spaces. This will be your home as much as ours. Oliver was quiet. Then he said, his voice rough, Does this mean you're not getting tired of us? Marcus's expression softened. He walked around the table and put his hand on Oliver's shoulder. Son, we're never going to get tired of you. Any of you. You're not temporary. You're not a phase. You're our children, and that's forever. Oliver nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Later, after the kids were settled in their rooms, Vanessa and Marcus stood in their bedroom. Vanessa touched the necklace at her throat. Do you think we're doing the right thing? She asked. The bigger house, making this even more permanent? Marcus pulled her close. I think we're doing exactly what we need to do. Building a life that has room for everyone. Building a family that chooses love even when it's complicated. Vanessa rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this. Standing here with you, talking about buying a house big enough for 5 kids. Being given a necklace by your ex-wife thanking me for loving her children. It's surreal. 2 years ago, Marcus said, I didn't know I had 5 children. I didn't know I could love someone the way I love you. I didn't know family could be built from broken pieces and still be beautiful. But here we are. Here we are, Vanessa echoed. And you know what? I wouldn't change it. Any of it. Even the hard parts. Even the hard parts, she confirmed. Because the hard parts made us stronger. Made us a family. Made us us. From down the hall, they heard laughter. The kids were supposed to be sleeping, but clearly someone had started a pillow fight. Marcus sighed, but he was smiling. Should we stop them? Vanessa considered. Let them play for a few more minutes. They're building memories. Good ones to replace the hard ones. So they stood there, listening to the sounds of their children, their complicated, beautiful, hard-won family, and knew that they'd found something rare. Something worth every struggle. Love that expanded instead of divided. A family built not on perfection, but on persistence. On choosing each other day after day, even when it would be easier to walk away. And in Vanessa's jewelry box, a necklace with 5 birthstones, and 1 heart would rest each night. A reminder that families come in all forms. That love is bigger than genetics. That sometimes the most beautiful things are born from the most broken places. That was their story. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Not what they'd planned, but exactly what they'd needed. And it was, in every way that mattered, everything.